takes on the big bank and wins? A true David versus Goliath victory. In this case, the homeowner's name, in fact, is Dave. It all started when Dave Graham tried to change his loan under the government's Housing Affordable Modification Program, known as HAMP. It was a last-ditch effort to save his home from foreclosure. For an 18-month trial period, Graham made reduced payments on his mortgage, only to find out after having done so from Bank of America that he wasn't going to be considered eligible for the modification that he'd been paying for the past year and a half. As a result of the reduced payments, of course, his credit score was wrecked because they retracted the modification. But Dave fought back, and at the very least won a little money, $7,500, which was the maximum the judge could give him in small claims court. Dave Graham joins us now, along with Alan Sims, who is the real estate forensic specialist who helped him with this case. Think of him as sort of a mortgage CSI character. We reached out to Bank of America about this case, and here's their response. Quote, "We were unable to complete a modification under the government's Home Affordable Program because Mr. Graham did not provide all the documentation required under the federal guidelines. We have offered and remain willing to consider Mr. Graham for a modification under proprietary non-government programs, which may allow us more leeway." So, Dave, in the context of that comment from Bank of America, did you not provide all the necessary documentation, and what did happen from your perspective?
Well, Dylan, we did comply with their request for documentation probably about 3 times during this 18-month process. If there was something that was still missing, I was not made aware of it. In fact, I had actually asked the representatives that I talked to each month while making my payments if there was anything necessary to be sent, and they always told me no, there was not. They didn't show anything.
Alan, you say that Bank of America uses the promise of this type of a modification basically as a way to milk a little bit more money out of somebody whose house they know they're going to foreclose on anyway. So they basically say, hey, we'll give you the modification, you give us the drop payment, they get the extra 18 months worth of money, and then they say, hey, guess what, thanks for the money, we're taking your house.
Yes, that's true. They knew within 90 days of this process that Dave didn't qualify for this loan, so they kept on taking the money for additional 18 months after this 90 days. They used the money in an escrow account that pays for taxes and insurance first. It doesn't even go towards their mortgage that he needs to reduce. So it's like subsidizing the bank's inventory so they don't have to pay any insurance or taxes on the property.
Well, Dave, did they tell you within 90 days that you weren't going to qualify?
No, sir. They kept me making these trial period payments for 18 months before they actually had told me that I would have to make up that back money of about $7,000 or lose my home. And at that point, a little further investigation, I found out that supposedly they had sent notice to me that I did not qualify 3 months prior to that. Of course, I never got that notice, and their response to me when I questioned them was, well, we did our part, it's not our responsibility if you didn't get it.
If the banks own the vast majority of the houses in America, which they do, and if the banks don't have any money, which they do not because they get it by the trillion from the federal government and the U.S. taxpayer, so you have this sort of unholy alliance between the tax base and the banking system, and then the money, the profits from the banking system used to fund the politicians in order to get the politicians to continue giving the banks the money. What recourse do any of us have in the context of a theoretical democracy if the federal government and the mega banks are in this unholy alliance, Alan?
It's just dismal. And what we try to do, at least what my organization tries to do, is we get the homeowner to go ahead and realize that the house, especially on this HAMP program, is going to be lost. They already have you pegged as being foreclosed in the future. So let's try to attract 2 issues. Get you a little cash from small claims, and the second is try to get your credit repaired with a positive judgment, and that's what Dave's going to be faced with, because those are the 2 major issues from a lot of homeowners. I want to start over again. I want to get off that crazy retrain them on right now, and I want my life to go on. So they have to take the responsibility to go ahead and go after the banks. They have to say, I had enough of this type of sham of a loan scam program. I want to start my life over again. I want my credit repaired. And that's what Dave is really trying to go after.
And Dave, why do you think the judge ultimately ruled in your favor on this case?
Well, we were able to produce the evidence necessary to prove that they had prior knowledge that I was not going to qualify, that they actually had promised me things that they could not and were not going to deliver. So it was a pretty clear-cut case that they had pretty much deliberately done wrong.
Alan, is this a start of a trend? You got a judge in California here ruling in the little guy's favor in the face of what sounds like fairly overwhelming evidence. There's another ruling out of Massachusetts today that was again against the banks. Is the court, are the judges the last line of defense here, and are they actually potentially starting to wake up and actually smell the coffee, as it were?
Yes, they are. What we're able to do, especially in this venue, is to have the small claims venue, is to have the homeowner with the tools I'm able to provide go in and say, look, I'm a victim of fraud in California. It's under specific civil codes, and here's the evidence. As an expert witness, I give them the tools to do this. And in Dave's case, it was they were covering up information. The Bank of America was before during this period of time, and they also had undue influence to go ahead and take advantage of Dave so that he would make some decisions. All this was done without contracts. They did it over the phone, and the judge was appalled with that. Also, that was the main thing, and this happens to millions of people nationwide.
Listen, thank you both for sharing your story with us, and kudos to both of you for, again, turning your wishes into a goal, making a plan, and executing it.